In a world addicted to noise, silence is the most powerful rebellion. This video explores the profound, philosophical, and scientific dimensions of silence, not as mere absence of sound, but as a transformative force in the human experience. From neuroscience to ancient wisdom, from self-awareness to emotional clarity, learn how embracing silence can lead to inner peace, deeper understanding, and personal awakening. What you'll discover in this video: the psychology and science behind silence, why stillness boosts creativity and decision-making, how silence improves relationships and communication, insights from Zen, Taoism, and modern mindfulness, real-life examples of personal transformation through quietude. Whether you're a seeker of truth, a meditator, a philosopher, or just someone overwhelmed by modern life, this video is your invitation to reconnect with the power within stillness. Silence is not empty, it is full of answers. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content on Eastern wisdom, mindfulness, and conscious living. In the depths of life, where the subtlest movements of consciousness elude measurement by words, silence emerges not as an absence, but as a phenomenon more meaningful than any form of sound. We live in an age where noise is glorified, where speaking and expressing have become emblems of existence itself. Digital platforms reward the loud, the opinionated, the constant sharer, so much so that silence is often seen as an anomaly, even a threat. And yet, in such a world, silence holds a quiet but profound power, a power to retreat, observe, understand, regenerate, and transcend. Silence is not simply the absence of sound. Rather, it is an intentional, active state, a mental space in which presence reaches its purest form. When a person sits in silence, it is not because they have nothing to say, but because they have moved beyond layers of thought and emotion to realize that the essence of understanding does not reside in words, it lives in unspoken awareness. It is in silence that the deepest human intelligence is stirred. This is not a new idea. It is deeply embedded in the philosophical traditions of humanity, from Eastern meditative lineages to the ascetic orders of the West. From a neurological perspective, the human brain is not designed to endure the constant stimulation of today's hyper-connected world. Bombarded by endless input, sounds, images, ideas, the brain becomes overstimulated, a condition known in neuroscience as sensory overload. Modern research has shown that during periods of silence, the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for higher-order cognition such as self-awareness, decision-making, and impulse control, becomes more active than when overwhelmed by external stimuli. In other words, when we withdraw into silence, our most advanced mental faculties are better able to function, allowing wisdom to surface. Prolonged silence also calms the brain's default mode network, the internal monologue of the mind involved in rumination and storytelling. This calming doesn't hinder thought. On the contrary, it opens space for the mind to restructure itself, often leading to breakthroughs in insight, emotional balance, and creativity. It's no coincidence that some of history's greatest minds, philosophers, scientists, poets, and sages, regularly withdrew into silence before birthing their most groundbreaking ideas. Silence also underpins the process of self-reflection, which psychologist Carl Jung saw as the heart of human individuation and maturity. When one stops speaking and begins to listen, truly listen, to themselves, they start to perceive the unconscious patterns driving their behavior, buried fears, defensive mechanisms, limiting beliefs formed in childhood but never questioned. In silence, the layers of ego begin to peel away. Our identities, those that come with names, roles, achievements, lose their grip. You are no longer the successful one, the popular one, or the failure. You are simply a being, present and unadorned. This nakedness is precisely why silence terrifies many. They cannot bear to be alone with their own minds. They reach for noise, conversations, social media, music, even prayer, as distractions from a deeper unease. But those who have the courage to remain in silence, without resistance, without judgment, will discover a kind of freedom previously unknown. Not the freedom to do whatever they want, but the freedom from the compulsion to do anything at all. It is a resting in the essence of being, untouched by the need to prove, to improve, or to belong. There is a kind of understanding that cannot be conveyed through language. It can only be directly experienced in silence. As the philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein famously said, "Whereof one cannot speak, thereof one must be silent." This is not a cynical comment on the limits of language, but an acknowledgement of the translinguistic nature of fundamental experience. Raw existence, deep love, spiritual awakening, these lie beyond vocabulary. They demand a compatible mode of access, the stillness of silence. In human relationships, silence also plays a crucial yet underappreciated role. Not every question needs an answer. Not every wound requires a verbal consolation. Sometimes, a silent gaze, a quiet hand held in solidarity, or the simple presence of another being, without words, can heal more deeply than anything said aloud. True love does not manifest through constant affirmations, but in the willingness to sit together in silence when it matters most. True friendship doesn't depend on endless conversation. It is sustained by the ability to be quietly present with one another without awkwardness. Even in highly verbal professions like psychotherapy, the most skillful therapists are not those who speak well, but those who know how to listen, and how to be silent. They create a space in which the client is invited to encounter their own emotions, allowing truth to emerge from within, not from the therapist's interpretations. Healing, in these moments, arises not from words but from the quiet container in which one's story is held with care and without interruption. At a deeper level, silence allows systems to self-regulate. When we stop intervening, stop trying to control others, stop imposing our ideas, the system, whether a relationship or a society, begins to operate according to its intrinsic wisdom. This principle lies at the heart of the Taoist philosophy of Wu Wei, or non-doing, the notion that the most effective action is often non-action. Sometimes, saying nothing brings more clarity than any well-crafted argument. A moment of anger may dissolve without a response. A misunderstanding may resolve itself not through explanation, but through the silent passage of time. In many Eastern cultures, it is the space between words, not the words themselves, that holds the most meaning. In Japan, the concept of ma refers to the meaningful emptiness between two sounds, two gestures, or two thoughts. It is in these gaps that beauty emerges. A melody moves us not merely through its notes, but through the silence that frames them. A painting draws us in not just through its color, but through its negative space. Silence is not absence, it is the presence of presence. But how do we practice silence in an era engineered to make us speak, respond, perform, and consume? How do we preserve inner stillness when the outer world is a constant roar? The answer lies in creating sacred spaces for silence. These can be small, personal rituals, early mornings free from devices, where one simply sits with their breath, a quiet walk without headphones, listening only to rustling leaves and the sound of one's own footsteps. A few minutes of meditation before beginning the day. Though these practices may seem trivial, when done consistently, they open a larger internal space, a space where silence ceases to be an activity and becomes a way of being. Eventually, this silence becomes portable. It no longer depends on external quiet. One can remain still amidst noise, composed in chaos, inwardly quiet even in confrontation. This is when silence becomes an inner strength, not avoidance, but presence, not retreat, but resilience. A person who has cultivated such silence speaks less, but when they do, their words carry the weight of lived wisdom. Their voice is backed by silence, and so each word lands with impact. Throughout history, there have been those who chose to live in silence, or who spent long periods in deliberate quietude. The Buddha sat in total silence for 49 days beneath the Bodhi tree before speaking his first words of awakening. Lao Tzu, after writing the Tao Te Ching, disappeared into the mountains, never to be seen again. Milarepa, the Tibetan yogi, meditated in caves for over 3 decades in absolute solitude. Christian mystic Thomas Merton wrote, "The deepest level of communication is not communication, but communion. It is wordless, it is beyond words, and it is beyond speech, and it is beyond concept." Not everyone must abandon the world to find silence, but everyone can find small inner sanctuaries, places where no words are needed, where nothing must be proven, to listen to something deeper than thought, life itself breathing through us. In today's world, you may never be taught the value of silence. Schools teach debate, companies teach public speaking, culture celebrates visibility. But if you can teach yourself to be silent, not from fear or submission, but from insight, from compassion, from clarity, then you will possess a power rarely found in modern life. Because at the very edge of silence, the most miraculous realization occurs. It's not that you are being silent, but that silence itself is living through you. Thank you for watching The Power of Silence. If you found this video meaningful, please like, share it with others who may benefit from these insights, and subscribe to our channel Eastern Wisdom Today. By joining our community, you'll stay connected to more videos. Thank you for your support, and we look forward to sharing more with you soon.